Class, this is the second video for Unit 2, our happiness unit. In the first video, I went over the two readings, and now in the second video, I'm going to talk about how to write the response essay. All of the information you see in these slides is also contained either in the essay prompt or in the PowerPoint that I've had on assignments for you to look at. So let's talk about our steps in writing this response essay. So the first thing you want to do is pick one of the two texts that we read for this unit. Either A Better Kind of Happiness by Will Storr, the article that talks about how happiness is related to the human genome, or the article There's More to Life Than Being Happy by Emily Smith. And that's the one that talks about Viktor Frankl's story and compares and contrasts having a meaningful life to a happy life. The next step is to do some brainstorming. You did this through the pre-writing assignment and through the responses that you've written for both of these essays. So those can be guides for you on what your response to these articles was as you were reading them. Okay, next, you want to think about your position on the article. So you see there's kind of 6 different ways you can organize your essay. You can either completely agree with the article, say something like, you know, I 100% agree that happiness, can have an impact on a person's health, or rather maybe meaning can have an impact on a person's health, or I agree that finding meaning and having meaning in your life is more than happiness. So you can 100% agree with the article. You can disagree with the article. You can say, for example, in the Emily Smith article, she talks about, she almost makes it sound like pursuing happiness is a bad thing. So you could kind of disagree with that idea and say, I disagree that a person should only seek meaning. They should really look for happiness as well. And you can agree with some parts or you can disagree with other parts. So for example, you could say, while I think it's important to have meaning in your life, I do also believe that you need to search for happiness, and it's important to have maybe those kind of hedonistic happiness kind of moments as well. You can also think about the rhetorical situation. That's what we've been talking about for each article, thinking about why the article was written, what the author's purpose was, the audience. So you could look at it and say, if the author was trying to convince this particular audience they didn't do a good job, and talk about why, or they did do a good job and talk about why. You can take one part of the essay and either agree or disagree with it and then expand on that idea, giving reasons for the reader to agree with you. So you might say, while I agree that people should search for meaning, I would say we should take it a step further and say, talk more about how meaning can also bring you happiness. Or you can just say your reaction to the article and talk about what was it about the article that made you feel that way. So you can say, this article made me sad, this article made me happy, this article made me mad, or whatever it made you feel, and think about what was it about the article that made you feel that way. Was it the story they used? Was it because they talked about too many science experiments? Was it the writer's style, tone, or their word choice? What made you feel the way that you did? And so those are different things, different ways to think about your thesis statement for your reader response essay. All right, these are the questions we talked about in the pre-writing exercise. So thinking about, do you agree or disagree? What convinced you? Relates back to all those different possible thesis statements that we talked about there on the last slide about if you're going to agree or disagree or look at rhetorical situation. So I'm not going to read all this. We did this in the pre-writing. So that would be part of your next step, is really thinking about which article you chose and how you felt about it. All right, the next step is to get your working thesis statement. So here are some examples, right? So we could talk about agreeing. And these are examples from an article about cell phones, right? It's just one of the examples that I had. And so I used the thesis statements from some of the examples that I had. So I agree with Johnson, the author of the article, because I have observed many people driving dangerously while talking on cell phones and have even been in an accident myself while talking on the phone. All right, so from that thesis statement, I could get an idea about how the author is going to prove that they agree by talking about their own personal experience. Or you could say, I disagree with Johnson because I don't think that using a cell phone is any different from eating in a car or talking with other passengers. All right, so in this one, they're going to talk about having other kind of distracting behaviors in cars. All right, and then the other one is expanding on the idea. Like, I agree with Johnson's assertion that cell phones are dangerous, but I go even further than she does because I think we cannot control this problem by merely educating the public. We need to have laws prohibiting the use of cell phones while driving. So presumably in the Johnson article, Johnson talked about we need to educate the public about dangers. She's saying we need to do more than that. We should have laws. So taking the idea, saying the author's right, but we need to even make it more than the author thought. All right, so in your body paragraphs for a response essay, what are you going to write about? So you're going to give your reasons why you agree or disagree, or think about the rhetorical situation. So in your body paragraphs, the evidence you can use is you can either give your personal experience, like that agree essay that we just looked at, right? Talk about your personal experience and how that relates to the topic. If you talk about your personal experience, I want you to be specific. Talk about a moment in time, something that actually happened. Don't talk about like, I've never really been a happy person, something like that. Talk about a moment in time. I wasn't happy, this happened and it really hurt my happiness. Now, after reading about this, I realized that whatever this bad thing was, it contributed to my meaning. All right, so think about that moment where something happened, rather than say in high school I felt this way. Talk about, I remember in 10th grade when I failed a test and I thought my world was going to end. Or, I passed a test and I felt thrilled and excited, but the next day something else happened and my happiness was gone. All right, so when you talk about your personal experience, it's best to talk about something really specific. It makes a better connection with the reader. So that's one of the pieces of evidence you can use. I agree because I've had some kind of experience. You can also use evidence from the reading. You can say, I agree with this article because the story that the author used of Viktor Frankl really moved me. I felt like that was a really good example that the author used. And when Viktor Frankl said this, I could identify with it. So that's giving evidence from the reading. Remember that you have to use at least 2 quotes from the reading that you choose. All right. You also have to use one piece of evidence from one of the other readings or videos that we use. So think about how you could incorporate that. We just did the videos for homework. So you could say, I agree with this article because I've seen other people talking about how the search for meaning is important, such as the Buddhist nun who was in the video I watched, and you can give the title of the video and talk about what she said. So you can use evidence from one of the other readings or videos. I should have put other readings / videos there. Or you can talk again about how the reading itself convinced you. So what about the reading? The author's tone, the way the author used scientific examples. Maybe you really moved by the Frankl story. Maybe you liked relating it back to Aristotle and you thought that was cool. So these are all reasons that you would give. These are all body paragraphs idea. So you want to make sure you give the reasons, why you agree, disagree, say why you both, if you're doing both agree and disagree, maybe then your body paragraphs, you have one about why do you agree, or multiple paragraphs about why you agree, and one paragraph about why you disagree, or vice versa. 2 paragraphs about why you disagree, 1 about why you agree. Then if you're going to talk about why you would take the idea further, so that last thesis statement example we looked at, then you'll have body paragraphs talking about here's what the author said and here's why I don't think it was enough. In terms of organization of the essay, for this essay you want to think about your your introduction as being actually 2 paragraphs. You want to have your first paragraph be kind of more the traditional introduction. You want to have some kind of hook where you capture the reader's interest. In this case, maybe it's talking about happiness. And then you're also going to talk about the source text, so the name of the article and the author and how that, and kind of just in general, the topic of happiness. Then in paragraph 2, you're going to really talk specifically about the article. That's where you're going to use the summary. Remember, you already have a summary written for this article. I'm giving you feedback on that, so make sure you look at my feedback, make sure you edit it, make sure you watch that first video. That is going to help you be able to edit the summary that you have for the article. So your second body paragraph is going to be the summary, and then you should end with your thesis statement, which of course you also have from your homework. And then you're going to have 3 body paragraphs. The assignment says you need to have at least 3 reasons why you agree or disagree or think the article needs to be taken further. And then you'll have your conclusion paragraph. So that's the organization for this essay. Try to check out some of the examples. I believe in doing examples when I don't know how to do something. So for example, this one talks about reader's response, talks about how to organize it, and it gives this topic about an article about tattooing. All right, it gives you an example of the introduction they did. The second paragraph introduces and summarizes the article. And then there's the summary. The thesis talks about the thesis. Here's the thesis for this article. In spite of the fact that Adrian himself is not completely sure about his decision to get a dragon tattoo on his back, his article is a persuasive argument in favor of tattooing. So they're saying this article really is persuasive, and they're going to tell you why. Okay, so for this one, they're going to tell you why. The choice of a personal experience presents the ideas effectively, so they liked that the author used a personal experience. And 2, the author interested him by focusing on the idea that getting a tattoo can be an expression of spiritual commitment. So that's another reason this person liked the article and found it convincing. Again, here's more body paragraphs, gives you some examples. So you have to kind of scroll through these, but there's 2 more examples on here for you to look at. And again, I'm a big believer in using samples. All right, I'm going to run out of time, and this is getting long. Thank you for listening. I hope this helps you write your response essay. Bye-bye.